Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Live. I'm Ros Astengo and today we're talking about a business improvement district for Gibraltar. Now, this is when local businesses get together to identify common goals to boost the economic potential and environment of the area. In the UK, there are over 300 bids, and after producing a business plan over here in Gibraltar, that over the past couple of years, voting has begun on whether to adopt a bid here. Now, joining me in the studio today is bid Project Manager Jade Edinburgh, Vice Chairman of the Main Street Task Force Esteban Bravo, and Main Street Trader, many of us know him, it's Kamlesh Khubchand. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Ros. Thanks so much for having us.
Okay, so why don't we start off first of all with you, Jade, telling us about what is a bid? I mean, how can it improve Gibraltar's trading area?
So you touched on a few pieces there in the intro, Ros. So a bid, as you rightly said, is a system or a structure whereby businesses come together within a designated area. They identify improvements that they would like to see for the different kinds of businesses involved, develop a business plan around those, develop how they will be managed and also how they will be funded. So it turns out to be a structure which is a collaborative way of sort of strategically developing a place where it's run by the businesses for the businesses.
Okay, I mean, we all have different businesses. People have different businesses. They have different ideas. How difficult is it to find one voice emerging from all of that?
Yeah, not easy at all, actually, Ros. To be honest, that's the main thing about this, is that finally it does become one voice in many ways, in terms of, say, perhaps even approaching government for funding, for example, or for certain changes that are required into legislation. So if you have a group of people who then listen more than anything to the people within the area alone, so and understand what their needs are as business people, as traders, as business owners, restaurant owners, etc., and then can actually formulate something and say, right now, let's make a position about a different area or a different kind of business, and let's improve it, either aesthetically or through some incentives and promotions.
Okay, well, we'll talk about how it's going to improve. But I just wanted to ask you, Esty, I mean, this is a bespoke plan. I mean, there's thousands of bids throughout the world. Yeah. How bespoke is this for Gibraltar? Tell us a bit about the planning process, first of all.
I think it's as bespoke as we've wanted to make it. We've looked at what we think are the challenges faced by all businesses within the bid. And we're not just talking, it's very important, because one of the great things about the bid is that it brings together or consolidates a vision of different types of businesses. So we've got retailers, we've got offices, we've got service providers, we've got landlords, we've got infrastructure providers. All of these coming together to try and define what we want our town to look like. And it's not just things like marketing and events. We're also looking at potentially strategic projects. We're looking at environmental projects. It's really a very exciting scheme for us, I think.
So just clarify, who's involved in, how big is the bid? Is it Main Street? Is it beyond? What businesses are we talking about?
So we have a defined area which is over 1,000 businesses. It is within the business plan, a specific map with the boundaries of that, but it's going from casemates in the north to the southern gates of town next to Gib Bank in the south, and then it includes everything from Linewell Road up to Town Range.
Okay, so what are the challenges that traders are looking to improve, let's say, with this bid? What are the main issues?
I think, for example, Main Street obviously has, as everyone knows, Main Street, and Main Street's been the hub of our trading centre as a community. And I think the challenge has always been to how do we maintain a standard, an aesthetic, for example. And of course, in any city, you have an aesthetic that just evolves. But this time, we can actually take control of it. And I think the best example I'd like to give is Malaga, for example, and in Christmas, where you have the lights that really make an impression, and people go back with an impression and say, wow, that was lovely. And I think what we need to do is aim for that kind of concept. I'm not just saying copying them, but like that, there's places throughout the UK that try to give the right impression. So there are challenges, and we've had challenges and found it difficult to get round a table sometimes, because as businessmen, we're all quite involved in our businesses and can't give it the time. But this is an opportunity for for a professional team to come together and say, right, this is what our task is. These are the kind of issues that we need to deal with. And after, obviously, consultation and having a budget, more importantly, they can actually put it into practice.
So is it something that's going to evolve over the 5 years? Because whilst I accept that you can probably all come together and agree on some nice Christmas lights like Malaga, one of the things the plan picked out was the type of shopping experience in Main Street, and a lot of it being geared towards tourists as opposed to locals. I mean, how is the plan going to address that?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting point. So there's a whole field of study called place management or place making, and that's really what a business improvement district tries to touch on as well. So, when you look at places like the UK, the high streets are really struggling, and the model, the stereotypical high street model, has been failing, and we're seeing town centres now adapt to this and almost change in a way, going back in some ways, going forward in others, where it's becoming more of a sociable place for local people as well as visitors. So that's definitely something we're trying to address in the business plan as well, ensuring that we don't, obviously this is not just for Main Street, it's for the entire bid area, and ensuring that we're creating a strategic place which takes all different areas into account. We'll then look to sort of develop areas within the town centre that may be better suited for tourists, some may be better suited for locals, some may be best suited for lunchtime, working lunches and that sort of thing, and being sensitive to the different use cases and the different demographics of people that we have, working, living, breathing, socialising within our town.
I'd like to add to that is that in addition to that, this is the first time that we're going to really be able to collect data on the experience of Main Street or the town area. And the idea is that it's in our interest to gather the data and the feedback that people have of the location, and then start to tweak it with our, with the budget that we have and with the progressive attitude that we have. So ultimately, that's what it is. Sometimes, there's information out there, people know it's happening, but nobody actually bothers to even collect the data and find out what are people really thinking about it.
Okay, I want to ask you about the bids in the UK, because this has been done before. Mm-hmm. So what traders here or businesses want to know is, how is this going to improve my business? At the end of the day, it's always about the balance sheet, isn't it? So what can you tell us about how successful or not, as the case might be, bids have been in the UK? What can you tell us about that?
So I think the key thing here is to understand how much the businesses are going to spend and what return they're going to make from this, right? 70% of the businesses are going to be paying less than £300 a year, and they're going to have the firepower of £800,000 a year from the bids budget. Now that you can do a lot with that. You can do a lot in terms of marketing and events. You can do a lot in terms of strategic thinking, data collection. There's a bunch of initiatives that can be done. Just green initiatives like waste management, which has been a problem for years. And that's what this budget is gonna go towards.
Well, 70%.
Yeah.
£300. What about the other? Who are the other 30%, and what would they be paying?
So the largest businesses within the bid area are some of the very big retailers and the very big offices. So the way that the bid is calculating the bid levy, which is the contribution that each business are contributing towards this sort of cumulative pot, is 50 pence per square foot of floor space per year. So on average, it will be around £1 a day for the majority of businesses. But we do have a maximum cap as well. Now, this is put in place to protect, obviously, the interests of the larger floor-spaced organisations. And that is £5,000 per year. We also have a minimum bid levy contribution of £100 a year for the smallest of businesses too. When you look at this in comparison to the UK, it's actually a lot less than most businesses will contribute. In the UK, it's actually based on business rates. Here, as a group, we've decided to go based on floor space, as part of our discussions. But in the UK, the largest businesses might be capped at something around 30,000. So we're bringing that right down to ensure we're protecting the largest businesses as well as looking after the smallest.
Sure. I mean, we'll talk about affordability in a moment. I just want to also confirm, you mentioned £800,000, but the government obviously is also putting some money in it. So what the final amount of the pot is what? Is it a million or something like that?
It is over 4 million across the 5 years. So it's over £800,000 per year, and that's including the government contributions.
OK, so let's talk about perhaps some of those smaller businesses that say, well, £300, but rates have just gone up. My trading's been affected by COVID. I just don't have the money. So what happens if a business decides, look, I'm opting out on this, I can't afford it, yet they will benefit because they will be part of a bid if that's voted through. So how does all that work?
So actually, once the bid comes into force, it's inclusive of everyone. So what we're doing at the moment is going through the ballot process where people are either showing their support or not showing their support for the 5-year business plan to go ahead. But if we get the majority vote based on number of businesses and also on the quotient of floor space, then the bid will come into effect and it will include everybody, including those people that may vote no. Fortunately for us, we're having very, very positive feedback from the vast majority of businesses we're speaking with. So we're really hoping that it does go through and everybody's happy.
I was talking about, sorry, carry on.
It becomes a sort of another utility bill, unfortunately, but something that at least you have more of a say in. So rather than something like rates going out and then saying, okay, that's money that government is going to use, here's money that's going to a pot that's going to be specifically and purely for the benefit of that area.
And controlled by the businesses within the area, I think which is important.
That's key, right? It's by the businesses for the businesses, and that's a very powerful message. Because we're obviously going to try and make it as streamlined as possible. We're going to try to make it as effective as possible, and businesses should try to take as much advantage if it goes ahead. Try to take as much advantage of it as possible. It's the world's your oyster as far as what can be done with a bid. It's as limited or as aspirational as you want to make it.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like an election. You might vote Labour and you might get the Tories, but then you do have local council elections. So let me just ask you about the process of involvement by the traders. So let's say you say people are very positive about this.
Yes.
So perhaps you might be anticipating a yes. Let's assume for a moment it is a yes and the bid does take place. So how does it work in terms of does the committee or the project team decide what initiatives get implemented? Is there some collaboration with the traders? Do they get to have a say throughout the year?
Absolutely, Ros, absolutely. So what we've done in the course of business consultation over the past 18 months at the moment, which was supposed to be less, but obviously we've gone through a few delays over the past year. We've had feedback from all different kinds of businesses and all different kinds of areas within that business improvement district map as well. And what we've done is we've created the 5-year business plan based on that feedback. So, to an extent, it does get to a point where you speak to enough business owners and we have a lot of the same good ideas coming up. So we're quite confident that it does reflect, the widest wants and needs of the businesses within the area. But then that's the 5-year business plan. So when it actually comes to effect, we'll have a not-for-profit organisation which will be controlling the projects, which will be professionally staffed. But that will be headed up by a board of directors made up of businesses from within the area. Now, any business within the area will be able to put themselves forward to take an active role. And typically in bids, particularly in the UK, there's also sort of spin-off working groups where if a business has a particular interest in, let's say, for example, green initiatives, then they could help us and support us with their time and lead on that kind of project for us. There's an element of flexibility in terms of when we do projects, but that's almost needed for us to be a nimble organisation and make sure that we're efficient as we can be in delivering return on that investment for the bid levy.
I want to play devil's advocate for a moment and say, well, after a year, I'm thinking, this is costing me a lot of money and I don't want to be part of bid anymore. Once it's voted in, are we stuck with that, Tory government? Can you withdraw?
The answer is yes.
You can.
For the 5 years, unfortunately, yes, if you're not happy with it, you'll have to put up for the 5 years while the bid is actually in place because it's a legal structure.
So that's the financial commitment for the 5 years.
But after that, if you really feel strongly that this is not working, it's a waste of money, and I don't think anybody else should do it, and it really hasn't worked, then by all means, after 5 years, you can campaign and say, no, we don't want this anymore, and we want back to what we were before.
Yeah, sure. That's a really good point actually, because the business plan is a 5-year plan and that's a fixed term. There is actually a mechanism to stop it sooner where the board of directors can shut it down. If we turn around and we say after year 1, you know what guys, it's really just not serving its purpose. We haven't done a good job. Most of the time it does do a good job. In the UK we see 9 times out of 10 bids getting re-voted in again when they go to a second ballot. But then after that 5-year period, if we are successful in those 5 years, we start from scratch. We have to develop a new 5-year business plan and go back out to all of the businesses and make sure that we use our wins from the previous 5 years to try and show that we have made a difference and it is worth it.
Okay, so let me ask you about some of the issues. I know we've touched on them on a general basis, but let's talk specifically about some of the things. As a shopper, for example, I might want to wander down Main Street, as you do in other Mediterranean countries, and do some shopping late in the evening. We have, shops here close early. Could we see perhaps some collaboration in looking at how business hours are operated in town? Is that one of the things, perhaps?
Oh, definitely. I think it's something that, again, once we have a voice, once together and we start to talk about these things and know that we have funding behind it, which is really key, then we can say, okay, if we're going to have, say, a Thursday night late opening, we're going to promote it, because it's not just a matter of all the shops opening up and saying, let's see what happens. The idea would be promoted not only locally, but maybe across the border, etc. So, and the idea is to try and attract people to Gibraltar. And as this is part of the Gibraltar project.
There did used to be a late night
they did
shopping,
try it out,
didn't
and,
they?
it was done by, bless them. It was done by a group of people who thought it'd be a good idea. The chamber was very involved, and there was a bunch of people who put the time and effort in it, but it was only maybe a handful of people, and it was just not backed with the right kind of maybe professionalism. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy to do these things. But here we have a team now that's coming together, who are professional, have got the experience of 300 bids in the UK saying this does work, this doesn't. And we're not going to hopefully make those mistakes.
And I think more importantly, if you're the type of person who actually wants to go shopping down to Main Street, the bid is catering for you, but more importantly for the people who don't want to come down. So it's going to create all sorts of, for example, events to bring people down. We really want to create an experience for
Give me
the
a bullet.
shopper.
Give me a very quick bullet list of, let's say, 5 things BID wants to achieve.
So there are 5 key project areas. So those are probably the best bullet points to start with. So the first one is marketing, promotion, and events. Does what it says on the tin. Obviously, they're a lot more fleshed out than this, but bear with me for the bullets. The second one is creating a uniquely Gibraltarian experience. Third one is clean, green, and welcoming. Fourth is backing business. And fifth is strategic and innovation.
Okay.
I just want to mention now, because we had a great meeting yesterday, and part of the first bullet that you had was the marketing and promotion. And sure, we all think about, what about the branding of our town area? And that's something that obviously is going to come out, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. But we had a fantastic get together yesterday where we had 3 teams, professional marketing companies, that come back with some fantastic ideas of how we can brand it alone. And I must say, I love your new logo, GVC.
Thank you.
It's looking great. So yeah, at the end of the day, how important is that for Gibraltar, and how is important that for our community to say, look, here's an area which is shining example of what it should be and what it could be, as opposed to it could be better, but we can't do it.
Yeah. Obviously, 3 of you have come here with a very positive view. Yeah. You're all 3 of you very involved in it. I've tried to be a little bit devil's advocate, but you say that the feeling out there is generally quite positive, don't you? So what do you encourage all businesses in the BID area to be doing right at this minute?
I say the first thing would be to inform themselves, because of course, we're at ballot at the moment. Businesses should have received their ballot papers this week. If they haven't received them so far, perhaps in the next couple of working days. And we need people to vote. We need involvement from the businesses. If they have any questions, we're here to answer them. We want to make sure that every business has a very, very informed opinion and takes action on that.
Esty?
Likewise, I think we're here to help and provide information to every business that wants it. We've been, obviously, we're very proud and that we've come this far, and we really genuinely believe that this is the best initiative for Gibraltar's town centre, and hopefully we can transmit that to these businesses, and ultimately we hope they vote yes.
I think the shopper probably might feel that way as well. Kamlesh, what are your thoughts? What do people need to do at this point?
Yeah, just inform themselves. If they have doubts, by all means, reach out. We're really easy to access through Jade, through the GFSB, through the Chamber of Commerce. There's a website as well, so if there's any issues, get on there, do your research, or make a phone call. And if not, definitely vote. It's at the end of the day, yes, it is a democratic process, because at the end of the day, like anything, you should vote either way. Even if you're not happy with it, do vote. Mm-hmm. But we're confident this is going to happen anyway. It's a really exciting time, and I tell you what, the team that's on board right now is really, really looking forward to putting these ideas into practice.
And do you have the chamber and the small businesses?
Well, it's part of their initiative as well. They've been involved from day one, and I think for the first time, both of them are in agreement with something that will actually benefit
See,
Gibraltar.
it does bring people together,
Absolutely,
doesn't it?
it does.
So the deadline is the 29th of September?
Yep, 5 p.m. on the 29th of September to return your ballots, and then we'll have the votes counted on the 30th. And we are likely to have a declaration event, which is part of the regulations. We need to formally declare the results on Friday, the 1st of October.
We shall put it in our diary. We do like a good election here in Gibraltar, don't we? Thank you very much for coming into the studio and speaking to us about it. Jade Edinburgh, Esteban Bravo and Kamlesh Khubchand.
Thank you.
You're listening.